So ICP, I'm watching that there. RSI is getting a little bit high here, so I'd expect us to come back down into this volume block, $4.80, $4.60. Again, you want to be careful. I think in these situations, we almost want to wait for closes before we make decisions. So running with alerts, and I'd have alerts maybe down on the 200. I'd want to see some daily closes continue above the 200, a weekly close, and that's when you can go, all right, well, now that's above that region. I can look to form a position, or maybe a longer term investment position, medium term, short term, whatever. Closes will be your friend over this. Don't feel like you're missing out on anything. You'll be given many chances at some of these levels for a lot of these alts to form positions, because if Bitcoin continues to feel like it's drive down, a lot of these alts are going to do the same thing and maybe lower. So, quote unquote, cherry ripe. We're not cherry ripe on ICP though until, and this is kind of like the ruthless approach which you can take. You assess relative strength, but you wait for just core pivot levels to flip now. So you just don't buy or get too bullish on some of these alts until these weekly pivot levels are taken. Again, like on the downside, you get incredibly bearish if it loses 2023 low. And gets underneath and goes lower, and you're just out. All right, Tau. So Tau's been a fascinating one, because it looked like, even though Bitcoin was bearish over the last few weeks, Tau, Virtuals, and a few other AI tokens are kind of mirroring the bullishness, the sentiment you're seeing in stocks, which is just hugely AI. And it's a bit of a worry if AI begins to lose its luster in stocks. It's kind of holding everything up. But Tau, I think it had a fundamental, maybe halving, something like that coming up, or has happened. But the thing is, it doesn't matter about that sort of stuff. What matters is price action, because it's kind of telling you there's something going on. But if we went out to the weekly, like this is fantastic. The break of the downtrend, through here, finding support, going higher, that was a really nice move. But for investors that don't want to play that chop game, you want to buy the pivot, which is tap, 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 close beneath on the weekly. I know a few people are getting a bit bullish up here on this wick, but it pays to wait for weekly closes, especially through major resistance or support levels, just to make sure you're getting a bit more confirmation there. And this weekly candle is closed decisively, engulfing. It hasn't closed yet, so it was 5 days left, obviously, in this candle. But this is not a good sort of start, where it could just rinse everyone and go back down like that. But what we wanted to wait for is a weekly close above here, where it's doing this sort of action. So I'm still in two minds here. I think that when something randomly pumps like this, when everything else is weak, red flags. It's kind of like a pump and dump. There's only one game in town, and people are just throwing their liquidity at it because of X, Y, and Z reasons. So just be careful. But that said, because Tau has shown strength of late, you still have to pay attention to it. But again, I'd be waiting for core weekly pivot levels before you do anything. And again, catching falling knives, just be a bit careful in these environments. And in fact, I'd recommend against it, to be honest, and waiting for those core pivot closes above. And I think you can be really, really successful, especially in crypto and just assets in general, if you're patient and understand your risk tolerance, understand your execution and your process quite well. And you go, look, I can buy here, will make me feel good, I can front run everything, but is it the smart decision? In most instances, no, it's not. You can get lucky a few times and gamble and win, but if you wait for your alert to go off and then wait for a close, you'll be in a far better position. So wanted to share that. All right, Solana, really odd feeling that I'm going to be bearish on Solana here, because had the staking, the ETFs, all that, but potentially this right shoulder of head and shoulders of Solana, which is developing here, maybe was the run up into the ETF, a bit of a slow grind higher and a bit of hope, and the staking. Even though the Solana ETF is doing really, really well in terms of those inflows, and I don't expect, for 1 minute, I don't expect Solana to just go back down to $50 or something silly like that. But there's no two ways about it. The structure here doesn't look great. You got that again, the left shoulder, head. Maybe this was a right shoulder, which busted up, sure, but this looks like a larger shoulder as well. And we've got a pretty clear neckline through here. And this weekly candle now is beginning to fall through that neckline, which would probably point us back to 130, 120. Again, I just don't like that as a, if you're looking for a danger zone. It's truly out of danger zone. If we go down to the daily, lost this entire volume block, lost the 200. It is falling into the next level of volume at 150. So, if you look at the bigger picture here, so higher low, higher low, higher low, high, 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 high. So there is a nice, sort of trend here. However, we just don't want to maybe lose, and we don't really want it to go much lower. Again, the RSI looks okay here, but we lost a lot of moving averages. It just looks like a danger zone to me. So losing that 140 region, I think it's not ideal. Even here, we could have a bounce, but it might be a situation where you look to maybe get out of the situation. But yeah, let's zoom out and go right. Let's work out, where would you buy Solana? If you're bullish on Solana, where would you buy it? Look at the Bitcoin pair charts, of course, but I did these charts for Koh Samui. Hammer level, rocket ship, market cap. If you're patient, wait for the hammer level. Wait for the flip of this. You get a weekly close above that level. So above all these peaks, she's in a bullish state. And you can wait for a couple of extra closes as well if you want to just be a bit more patient. But that's 266 again. This is what can drive us a little bit nuts, is going like, oh, I don't want to wait for that much of it and pay that much of a premium. But you are paying for more information. You're paying for more confidence. You're not going to get, in most cases, you're still risk, but maybe you're not going to be as often caught, bag holding all the way down and having to make a decision where you go, fuck, I need to cut things right now.